Okay, this is a washing machine that I got off Craigslist for free. It's not working. The woman said that it doesn't agitate very well and it doesn't spin at all. So knowing what little I know about this particular washing machine, it, most likely the problem is down here with the transmission. This aluminum thing, this big aluminum thing here is the transmission. See if I can get some more light on it. The transmission, in order to replace it, cost about $300. It's impossible, I think it's impossible, to get parts for the insides of this thing, so if I take everything apart and take it out, I'll take a look and see if there's something that can possibly be repaired. I'm not about to spend $300 to repair this washing machine. Now, in order to get it apart, check YouTube. More than likely somebody else has information on how to do it. Go to Not Spinning Performa Washer by the Appliance Man, and the video will be 14.46 minutes long, so you'll know you have the right one. He gives an excellent video about how to take the transmission out. The first half of the video is some other stuff, but the last half shows how to take the transmission out of this machine. So once you get the transmission out, then you have to get a screwdriver and twist these little tabs here. You just stick a screwdriver in there and twist them out. Once the transmission's out, it's very easy to do. I think there's about 12 of them. You just twist those tabs and then you can lift the top off of the transmission. The transmission does have a couple of cups of oil in it, so if it's laying on its side, make sure it's in a pan to catch all the oil. If you want to take the top straight off and have the thing standing upright, that's okay, but eventually you're going to have to dump the oil out anyway. So remember that it could be pretty messy if you're not careful. Okay, this is the bad gear that came out of my transmission. What had happened was the bottom of the gear melted. This was all plastic at one point, and the plastic melted. I have repaired it by putting a bunch of small self-tapping screws in around the areas where the plastic was. This has 4 slots in it that have to match up with these 4 protrudences on the shaft that goes on the bottom of the transmission. This now fits on here tightly and will not turn. Before, because of the melting, this would go around. When the shaft would go around, this would just twist and it wouldn't turn anything. Now, the bolt that held this on originally, there was a washer and a bolt. This bolt is a left-hand thread bolt. So, and I didn't know that. So when I tried to loosen it, I twisted it the normal direction and it busted right off. So in order to fix that, I had to drill and tap this shaft. And I'm replacing this bolt with this type of bolt, which now goes in there and will hold it on nicely. The reason I chose a round-headed bolt that has an Allen inside is because once this gets inside of the transmission, this piece here comes down on top. You have to have something that will fit inside there. If you put a regular bolt with a square head or a hexagonal head on it, it won't fit in there properly. So this should take care of the problem. Now, in order to hold this in and make sure that it doesn't come out, I'm putting some Loctite on the bolt. I will then screw it in And I'm going to take this over and clamp it in the vise, clamp this in the vise so I can get this good and tight. I drew this diagram to show a little bit better what's on the bottom of that broken gear. These yellow spots here are indentations that the metal shaft fit into. Normally this part here, 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 and here was solid plastic, so as the metal part would go around, the little pieces sticking out into these holes would cause the gear to turn. What had happened was the plastic parts in here and here and here all melted over time for some reason, and so the gear or the metal shaft would just slide around in here, and it wouldn't cause the gear to move. So what I did was, these little round places with the X's in them are small sheet metal self-tapping screws. I screwed them in as close to the end of the area here as I could, so when the metal piece fits in here, it's pushing up against a screw head, not pushing up against nothing as it was before. So with 8 of these screws all around, just make sure the screws don't stick out so far that you can't get the piece back in here properly. So with all the screws in here, when you slide the piece in, it'll snap together, as you can see in my the other part of the video here. And then you put the screw in and it holds everything together. It's very solid. I wouldn't be surprised if this will last as long as the original gear did. I am now going to slide this shaft back in here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little arrow here and another little arrow on the other side of this gear. Once I put this in, I've never done this before, but logically one would think that those are supposed to line up with the little arrows that are on these gears. There's one there and one here. So we've lined this arrow up with this arrow and this arrow up with this arrow. Now there's also an arrow here and an arrow here. One would think that they probably line up with these gears. Here's an arrow on this gear. We're going to line it up with that arrow. And there's an arrow on this gear right here that we're going to line up with this arrow. Now these pieces, there's 3 holes on each of these, but there's only one hole that's big enough to hold this. Same thing on this one. There's only one hole that's big enough to fit this. Now you sit this down like that, and the piece that goes on top that looks like this will fit down. These gears will interconnect with these gears, or with these, I guess you call them a gear, teeth. This fits down over the top, just like that. Now I need to put the cover on it. I will go find my cover. Okay, don't forget there's a rubber gasket that goes around the edge here so your oil won't leak out later. Now there's 2 ways to put the oil in, near as I can figure. You can either just dump the oil in and then put the cover on, or what I'm planning on doing is I took 2 bolts out of the top. Once the top's on, I should be able to squirt the oil down inside one of these holes, and the other hole will let the air out as the oil is going in. And that way, by doing it later that way, I can tilt the thing on side or whatever I need to do in order to crush these little things back over to hold everything together. Now I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but when I took it apart I put a mark on the top and a matching mark on the bottom So I'm going to put this back together exactly the same way that it came off. Now I think everything is inside there. Let me take a quick look. Okay, I looked around. I don't see any more parts that go in here. One other thing, this piece here slides back and forth a little bit. There's a little notch on each side of this that has to fit, or a little protrudence that has to fit into the notches on here. So that's in place now. I'm going to attempt to slide this on, keeping the line that I made before I took it apart in line with the line on the bottom. Now I don't know whether I'm going to need a hammer or pliers or what. Oh, not too much, just kind of. Okay, as I mentioned, make sure this is seated down inside here properly, and you shouldn't have any trouble sliding this on. Make sure your gasket